left over some cans of dehydrated food that I haven't yet hauled to the basement. I've actually gone full blast on I already have nearly 6 months of emergency food, but I picked up some more with what very little money I have to play with. I don't know if play with is the right word, but by the way, I picked up a house. I had to borrow most of the money to get the house. It sits on nearly 2 acres of land. Yeah, I was showing people pictures of this in live stream. The old guy was put into a care facility, and it's got 4 buildings, a nice brick house and 2 storage buildings, one of which is super huge, and it's metal. It's nearly as big as the house. Actually, it's bigger than the house. And got into the storage building. Yeah, and what comes with the house that I got, by the way, I paid $17,000 for a brick house on 2 acres of land, well, nearly 2 acres of land. And inside the storage building is a Mercury Cougar that's maroon. And I forget the model, but it's the largest Harley Davidson they've ever made. It's made for like long cruising across the country. It starts with an S. It wasn't a flood, but I mean, someone had to rebuild the engine and the carburetor on it, but there's not a speck of rust on it. It's super huge. Got the super wide fat tank on it, you know, for going cross country. And it even has a pull behind trailer for pulling behind the Harley. It's even got, it's like, wow, this is the free bonuses that come with the house. A Mercury Cougar? That's been flooded too, so I guess that Cougar might only be worth scrap value. And the biggest Harley Davidson, I looked up the model, I forgot the model, it just evades my mind at the second. But a new one is over $100,000. I figured in its flooded state, considering it's got very low mileage on it and not a speck of rust on it, that has to be worth a minimum, I'm only guessing here, a minimum of like $5,000 to $8,000+. So let's see, I paid $17,000 for everything. You take off, oh, also comes with a nice trailer. You take off, the Mercury Cougar has got to be $500 scrap value. Let's say $7,000 or $8,000 on the motorcycle. That means I got the house, because I'll sell those. Comes with a trailer too, a really, really nice, fairly new trailer. And a brand new refrigerator that hasn't even been taken out of the box. Brand new refrigerator, I forgot about that. So I chopped that off, the $7,000 or $8,000 for the vehicles. So that means I got the house, the 2 acres of land, and I know exactly how much those storage buildings are worth. They're worth over $20,000. They're all metal. They're super, super nice. I'm getting to it here. I've actually never seen such a dire time than right now. I saw videos from Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage. Not Keir Starmer. Boris Johnson, the guy with the wild hair. Keir Starmer is the current tyrant that's in charge of the UK. Boris Johnson, the guy with the wild hair, and he's always got like food dribblings down his shirt, and he's being super nice, but he basically says what's happening right now is purely tyrannical. I wanted to show you this picture. I showed it to people in picture in live stream before. It's an old picture. It's kind of yellowed. And it's me standing in Krasny Ploshad в Moskvе, Red Square in Moscow. I'm holding a briefcase. I know you can't see it. It could or may not be. I'm not going to confirm or deny. The briefcase had classified documents in it. The reason why, and people like this don't exist anymore. I'm still like this. I'm not, you know, tooting my own horn here when I'm saying this, that as the Rock of Gibraltar, I still am the Rock of Gibraltar. Reliable. I'm never late. I'm always on time. I'm faithful, and I could be counted on. And I have creative, spontaneous thinking. I can think on the fly, very creatively. And people that were, I'm a document facilitator. That's what I'm going to call that picture. It's taken by a colleague. I'm going to use the word colleague. Red square there. Me holding the briefcase. People like that just don't exist anymore. It's the same reason why everybody is wearing cameras. That's extremely unfortunate. Everybody's got a camera on their car. I have one now too. And I don't have it in front of me. This little, it's like a police body camera. The reason why police carry those around too. It reduces lawsuits, and it proves like this is what happened. You know, he said, she said. We could eliminate out all that garbage. Let's just show you what actually happened. I'm predicting in the near future that the newest thing, and they're going to make them smaller and smaller. We all know that. That everybody's going to have, because society is so corrupt and defunct and upside down and backwards, that everybody's going to have, as a fashion accessory, before you leave the house, you're going to stick your cell phone in your pocket, and everybody's going to clip on a camera. I don't know if it'll be a 360 camera. It's because people are so unaccountable. People have become the epitome of lying musor. Musor is the Russian word for trash. People have become unaccountable, lying, unfaithful, unreliable, untrustworthy. You just, you can't, it used to be a handshake, my word is my bond. It used to be your word was worth something. I think the only place where your word is actually worth something now is if you're a Navy SEAL or Delta Force or Mossad or Russian SVR. It's like, your word is your bond and your bond is your word. I mean, it's just like, it's gone from a significant number of people across the world to just a handful of super, super, super tiny brotherhoods of like elitists, Navy SEAL, Delta Force, Mossad, other entities like that. That's how it's, because you can't trust anybody anymore. Everybody's a liar. Nobody has any accountability anymore. Anyway, getting on to the UK, and I'm part British. I'm not picking on the British people when I say this. The UK is not a civilized society anymore. It's just not. They should have travel bans on the UK from other Western societies. I hate to say that. I actually want what's best for the British citizenry. I really do. I get along great with them. Some of them would travel over here on what they call holiday, and I'd show them around, and we'd do interesting things, and they enjoyed it. I mean, I get along great. It's just, they've announced, and remember when they said this, and I was saying it, and I got mercilessly, people wagging their finger at me. That's never going to happen. It's conspiracy theory. It's never going to happen. A digital ID. Two-tier keyer, as the British people call them. I think some British people call them a Muppet. They also, too, call the Popo Muppets. Remember when they said that, yes, it's a conspiracy. It's never going to happen. Well, it's happening. Even Keir's on video, and it's all over the place. There's a reason why Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage and every other British talking head, Americans generally don't know that this is happening. They say, well, you're not going to be able to work. It'll be impossible, Keir said, to work without a digital. You've already got passports and ID and this ID and that ID. I mean, compared to an American citizen, British people have IDs out the yin-yang. So you really think you need a digital ID to work? I mean, it's a total lie. It's a total unmitigated, it's not my opinion or feeling or belief, it's a total lie. UK is just not a civilized society anymore. I mean, it's not. There's a famous author that's on my Facebook, and I was just posting, just posted the video, what Keir said. And I said, the UK is fallen. It's not a civilized society anymore. And this author said, compared to the, no different than the United States. I'm sorry, girlfriend. I love you to death, this author, who I've sold a lot of books for her, and I got nothing against her. She's the only living author that I respect. But, girlfriend, here in the U.S., we still have the First and the Second. And I don't see old people in wheelchairs getting arrested for social media posts like they are in the UK. Excuse me. Women tweeting stuff and posting innocent stuff on Facebook, hello, open the door, or we're going to knock it down. Some house mom, posting about the tyranny that's happening in the UK. You posted something evil on Facebook. We're going to have to arrest you. People years ago went after me for saying this stuff was coming, and it's here. They even said, Kier on the video said, you're going to need digital ID to work and do things. That's just a huge lie. So the UK is now a tyranny. I don't know, what's your position on this? Society has become so unhinged, and yes, I know I made a video about being unhinged like a week and a half ago. By the way, what's happening now in the United States looked exactly what it looked like during the Maoist revolt. I'm going to use the word revolt instead of the other Rev word. You know, truth seekers and rational people are demonized. I saw a guy on college campus, and he wasn't allowed to speak, and he had like 200 angry people that they actually stole his equipment, and they're just about ready, if the cops weren't standing behind him as he was ushered off campus, they were just ready to take him apart. Now, the only reason they didn't is because the cops were standing behind him. I'm not saying I'm in position of this, but it's an accurate statement, and history has proven this time and time and time again. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and that's not my opinion, that's a fact. That when people start acting like animals, unfortunately, they will be treated like ones. Just let that sink in, because that's not my position, that is a fact. And I'm not saying I do this. You know, I just look at some people, I roll my eyes, and I keep walking on. You know, as long as you keep your hands off of me, we're all fine. I don't care what people say. I absolutely do not care. Is that when you start acting like an animal, thusly shall one be treated like that. And this sort of animalistic behavior of complete irrationality, that you actually can't have a civil discourse, is a part of brainwashing. And this exactly, 100% exactly like the Maoist revolt. And what happened there, it's the same thing happened in Russia, which then of course became the Soviet Union. I was in the grocery store 2 days ago. I spent $93, and I swear to God I got absolutely nothing. And more than half of what I bought was on sale. $93 exactly. And I was picking up some eggs. The Pepsi guy, who I'd talked to before there at Kroger's grocery store, came up to me and said, "Man, can you believe these prices?" And then he said something, and I was planning on talking about in this video anyway. He says, "Can you believe old, I'm going to say Cheeto Jesus. You believe old Cheeto Jesus says things are getting cheaper?" And we both laughed. And I hurled out a few explicatives laughing. I said, "Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Look at the cost of this stuff." I got nothing, and it was $93. I have no wife, no kids, no house payment, and no car payment. Normal working people, how are they doing it? Living on their credit cards? You can only live on your credit cards so long, and then it'll just avalanche on top of you. That's not what credit cards are meant for, and I know this, but you could do that for a short spurt of time, but things are not getting cheaper. I mean, that's one of the biggest lies, and you know, I don't care what side someone's on, the left or the right. The fact that Cheeto Jesus keeps saying that things are getting cheaper is just a huge laughable lie. You know, where I'm living out here in Kentucky with super low property taxes, groceries are astronomically high. I look for stuff that's on sale. I'm looking for the cheapest meat. I finally found it on sale, and it still was $25 a pound. I'm like, well, that's better than Sam's Club, which is a discount store. The same meat there was $34 a pound. By the way, Pete Hegseth, who's the Secretary of Defense, I know it's been renamed, the Department of WAR, convenes every general above a brigadier general, and that's happening, I think, later this coming week. They were asked about this recently. They said, "Well, I don't know what the big deal is." Well, the last time this happened was the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was post 9/11. Pearl Harbor. This is extremely rare. You're going to have all of them together in one place for the first time since, I think, first time since 15 years ago. This has only happened like 4 or 5 times in the history of the United States. And the reason why they're meeting in person is you can't do it over a Zoom call because, of course, their comms are partially compromised. There's no way you could have a super top secret meeting and they're calling in every general in the United States above a brigadier general into this meeting. If you don't think that's something, then, well, there's something wrong with you. Maybe you say, well, they're going to have a mass firing, maybe. That's certainly possible, but I doubt that considering what's going on right now. By the way, the European Central Bank just made an emergency declaration telling its peeps to keep 72 hours of cash on hand, just in case. France and Germany have made warnings on the same ilk, except in the arena of food. The type of nuttery, I'm going to use the word nuttery, that we're seeing right now. There's this one lady, I think her kidneys have failed and she's in the emergency room, is because this is how unhinged people are. And this was a recommendation from a lot of doctors, and even Tylenol itself made this statement, I think in, I don't know, it was 10 or 15 years ago. Someone could find out when Tylenol said it. They say, pregnant ladies don't take our product. They said, don't do it. Tylenol themselves said that. So they were talking about autism, and they had a bunch of doctors behind them. Old Cheeto Jesus says, if you're with a child, don't take this. Just because he said it, but he really wasn't making the recommendation. He was going off of a bunch of doctors standing behind him, and even Tylenol themselves said it several years ago. I can't remember the exact date. People became so unhinged, and you can't make this up. I've got the videos, and they're out there on Instagram and everywhere. They despise Cheeto Jesus making that statement about Tylenol more than they care about their own little rugrat. There's this, I don't know how many months along she is, but she's sitting there chugging Tylenol. How absolutely out of your mind do you have to be to despise what Cheeto Jesus, and he didn't say it, it was the doctors who said it, and he was just repeating it, if you're with a child, you shouldn't be doing this. How unhinged and unstable and what type of psychosis do you have that you're more angry at him and therefore you're going to pop a bunch of those things than you are against, you care more about that than you care about your own little rugrat. There's a bunch of ladies online. You could tell, you got the big bump going on there. Who knows how far along they are, not that it matters any. They care more about their unhinged anger over Cheeto Jesus talking about taking Tylenol than they care about their own. That is so crazy. And nothing shocks me. Nothing really shocks me. That's so crazy. That type of psychosis is 99.99% confined to city people. I've been talking about this before. You don't see that type of cray-cray, far less than 1%, emanating from somebody living rurally, in the rural areas or in the countryside. You just don't. I can't believe how much groceries cost. I know my income is way down. I'm working a lot harder. And I had to borrow money to buy this house, but I mean, $17,000? Come on, girlfriend. For a nice brick house. Here's the thing about the house, though. It's got brand new drywall on it and everything, but somebody broke in there. There's a couple windows out. And I shouldn't have done this. You're going to get a laugh out of this. There's a couple big buckets, and then they had garbage liners in them. And I told myself at the back of my, don't look inside the bag, don't look inside the bag. You know what's in there. But I looked anyway. There's a giant 2 5-gallon buckets full of the good old brown stuff in there. Woo-wee! I'm so lucky. So I did get the motorcycle and the Mercury Cougar, but I also got 2 giant buckets full of chocolate sludge. Yay! Don't you find it interesting that I talked about digital IDs coming? They said, oh, it's conspiracy, and it's coming. Keir Starmer, the head of the UK. So, yeah, it's coming. You're not going to be able to work unless you got... So these people have passports and ID and driver's license. They got every form of ID you can imagine. You still think you're telling them they need another ID. He says, whoa, it's free. It's free. Who cares if it's free? The worst form of shackles known to humanity have always been free. And anybody saying that this is happening in the United States, not that, digital ID. All the evil stuff happening in the United States are all, 99.9% of it, in socialist/liberal cities. Philly, Memphis, LA, Portland, DC, Chicago, New York, Detroit, Spokane, San Francisco, Jersey, etc., etc. By the way, there's a lot of evil stuff that happens in Tennessee. Tennessee, while it's right underneath Kentucky, is nothing like Kentucky at all. Nothing. The most corrupt city in America is Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's an established fact. And one of the most dangerous is Memphis, Tennessee. Tennessee, I don't like. No way, no how. If you're thinking about buying land or moving to Tennessee, well, it's just got to be just like Kentucky. It's nothing like Kentucky. There's a reason why all those Hollywood people have a second or third home in Nashville, Tennessee, or somewhere in Tennessee. Not Kentucky, Tennessee. These cities lack accountability and they lack enforcement. Yeah, Cheeto Jesus is lying like a dog when he said, prices are down. Bigly, prices are bigly down. Prices are the opposite of down. Do you have any idea what utility costs have done? There have been people that have actually turned down, including me, their electric usage in the house, and yet the price has either stayed the same or gone up. What's happening is these utility companies in about a third of the United States are going up so high to subsidize server farms run by Facebook and AI entities that are being built everywhere. This is a fact. Go look it up. It's not my opinion or feeling. You're subsidizing these energy-draining server farms that are powering those websites and AI machines. By the way, big things are happening in Belarusia. Russian RS-26 Oreshniks hypersonics are being deployed there en masse against Poland. Poland has put out a big warning over what's about to transpire. People that I actually trust, people that are not alarmists, say that we're very, very, very close to the edge here. By the way, they cut fiber optic cables, causing statewide 911 phone call outages in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. No explanation as of yet has been given to how or why these fiber optic cables got cut. You know, me to make an emergency call, oh, it didn't go through. I love it when people tell me, is that why should I have the ability to protect myself? It's like, you're going to be a day when you try to call 911. Doesn't matter, even if 911's working, they're going to arrive there after the fact, and someone's going to show up with a piece of chalk, and they're going to draw an outline of where you used to be. Like, there's where it happened right there. I'm going to draw this chalk outline around them. Yeah? Every cop on earth will tell you that, by the way. 99.9% of the time, they're going to show up after it's happened. And they're going to show up with a piece of chalk. I know they don't actually do chalk outlines anymore, really. They bring a photographer with them. They're going to draw an outline where you used to be alive. Right there is where that's where his last breath was taken. There we go. We're in a dystopian nightmare. By the way, this is a new fact. Americans, particularly young Americans, have experienced a 40% increase in the rate of cognitive disability over the past decade. New study from Yale shows that ages 18 to 39, we have a 40% increase in dementia and psychosis and instability. This is all because of the dystopian nightmare that's actually going on. This is an amazing fact to me, which I find hilarious, but is actually not funny at all, is that adhering to facts and wisdom now is considered to be right-wing. If you like facts and wisdom and logic and you're not emotional, you're considered a right-winger. That's crazy! That level of crazy. I mean, can you believe that? Even I wouldn't have predicted this like 15 years ago. Well, actually, I would have 15 years ago. This is something there's an old saying, you put your money where your mouth is, and you don't care what people's politics are, left or right, and I don't either. You watch where people put their money. Gold today is $3,800 an ounce. Platinum is $1,600 an ounce. It might be down since reporting this, but I just checked it a few hours ago. Silver is $46.30 an ounce. People are putting... I don't actually have any precious metals anymore. I actually have quite a bit of lead. I'm going to let you figure out what lead means, because that's the only real form of currency. But I've been investing in precious metals my entire life, but I didn't have the money. What little bit of money I had, I put into land and investments, thing that I knew I could quickly flip to try to support paying the bills and living a life. The world has become completely allergic to truth. I love to give some history lessons on the things that are happening, but nobody can handle the truth. In many instances, you're not allowed to report the truth. All sorts of things I'd love to talk about, but I can't talk about them because you're not allowed to talk the truth anymore. The world has become allergic to the truth. That's not my opinion, that's a fact. People in live stream are always asking my position on a hot button topic XYZ. They want me to be emotional and they want to get a gotcha moment out of me. Well, they're not, because I don't deal in emotions and hyperbolic filth. I don't. I don't. Emotions are for your dog, or your cat, your loved ones, good music, a funny movie, action movie, whatever. I'm not interested in being emotional about worldly events. I'm sorry, I'm not. By the way, silver is going to go way up. Samsung has a new battery technology that'll let you charge the battery completely from 0 in 9 minutes. It'll last 20 years. It's 60 times less heavy than conventional modern batteries. And the main component is, wait for it, silver. Something that myself and a lifelong person that I've known, I've noticed is a society. Western society has kind of collapsed into a bunch of animal worshippers. I don't care if you love your dog or your cat, I just don't care. One guy told his mom that his dogs can't come over to his house anymore because they're always whizzing on the carpet, so she never visits her own children anymore to visit her own grandchildren. She cares more about her own pets. And I've noticed this a lot. People, 20 years ago, this kind of filth never happened. I mean, the dog rarely came into the house, was in the backyard. It was your beloved, companion, your pet. But, you didn't feed it better stuff than you feed your own kids. Landowners tell me about peeps that care more about their pets than they do paying their own rent. I have a renter like that right now. He's talking about her dog. I'm late this month because my dog had this issue and that issue. I've heard this over and over and over again. You're supposed to care more about the roof over your own head than you are about your putty tat or your woof woof. They care more about their four-legged critter than they do the roof over their head and even their own kids. This is a psychosis. It's a mental illness. I don't care if that makes you angry. It's a mental illness. It's part of society's collapse and decline. This is what one person said. She said, "No human can provide another human with the level of love, devotion, and loyalness that my Poochie has for his human," meaning me. These people have lauded four-legged critters that lick their own chocolate starfish over kids and other human beings. Society was not like this 15, 20 years ago. There were animal worshippers back then, but people had their head, nailed correctly to the correct places on their neck, and they weren't suffering this type of mental illness. I've seen this over and over again, that people care more about their pet than they do the roof over their own head. I'm an animal lover. Don't accuse me of, disliking animals. I got videos of me with my cute little goose and ducklings that I hatched out, cute little fuzzy critters. But I'm never going to laud any animal over a fellow human being. Even somebody that I don't like and I can't stand. Like, that's a fellow human being. They can defend you. They can say, well, my dog can defend me. Yes and no. No, sorry. Cut off there at the end, let this video lapse a little too long, but I was going to finish this story out, is that these rich people moved in on a farm that I found for them, and we had dinner. This lady, and golden retrievers are great doggies. But we were sitting there trying to eat pork chops, and just completely clueless, and we were all totally grossed out about it, especially me, and I couldn't eat anything, is that these, they just don't get it. I mean, these wet dogs, just the smell was so horrific that you wouldn't even want to think of eating. It would be like if you were in a super, super dirty public toilet and you were going to sit down and eat food. I mean, you just can't do it. The smell was horrific. That, you know, you... These people worship their own... This is an animal. There's a difference between loving animals and being kind to them and being an animal worshiper. Those are not the same thing at all. They're just not the same thing. Okay? Don't confuse the two. Don't try to confuse the two with me, because I know the difference. And so these slightly wet dogs, even though they're golden retrievers, are some of the nicest doggies imaginable. You know, they are. It's just, the smell, it's just so gross, so awful. It's like, no, I'm not going to eat. Well, what's wrong? You know, why aren't you eating? It's like, you want to be nice. I know. I'm not going to say anything because I was there as a guest and the food was free. You know, you really, really wanted to tell the truth. And in normal circumstances, I would have. But it just would have offended. And this is what an animal worshiper is. This stuff did not happen 15, 20 plus years ago. It did not. Humans have become, and I understand that humans become so awful and so unhinged and have mental, that another form of mental illness is developed out of the mental illness of humanity, is that people can't stand other people. And I get why, you know, I really do. But they've developed their own form of coping mechanism for the mental illness of, they've developed their own mental illness because of the mental illness of, and they become animal worshippers. And loving an animal is not the same thing as being an animal worshiper, where you, like people that are avoiding seeing their own grandchildren because, you know, their dogs are not allowed to come over and tinkle on the carpet. You know, it's like, that's just gross. I've been into houses that are like, this is a nice house. And it's abandoned, and somebody acquires, like, there's dog tinkle all over the place. You know, the floors are ruined, the carpet is ruined. Everything is ruined. People just are unhinged. And I find it extremely funny that people told me that there's just no way digital ID is going to come. That's just a conspiracy theory. Well, it's happening in the UK. Where do you think it's going to happen next? The UK is not a civil society anymore. It's just not. Nigel Farage has said this. Boris Johnson. I never liked Boris Johnson. But Boris Johnson has like all the common sense in the world compared to the government of the UK currently. The whole country is falling. It should be on a no-fly list. I hate to say that. The UK should be on a no-fly list. It's like if you go over here and you try to say something rational and truthful, they might arrest you. So we recommend not traveling to the UK until they straighten their stuff out. If they do at all, ever, which they very well may never do. The warnings from Poland, the meeting of the generals, and the things that are happening right now, something big is about to happen. And despite what you think, I've not made those words in any other video. Take that for whatever you will. I read every comment. Tell me what you think. Have a lovely week.